First week is in full effect. Tonight is the last week, or the last game of week one. We're gonna start our in-season schedule. So today's episode is going to focus on waiver wires, and then Friday's episode will focus on the matchups for that upcoming weekend. We are also live on Twitch as well as TikTok. So for anyone joining us on those platforms, please drop a follow. Feel free to comment. So again, on today's episode, we are going to discuss waiver wire pickups. So we're going to start off with quarterbacks. So for any of my Jordan Love owners, I'm very sorry for your loss. Wasn't as bad as people hoped, so you may be in hunt for a quarterback. So my first waiver wire pickup is going to be Matthew Stafford. He's available in 60% of leagues according to Sleeper. He had a pretty good showing last night, even though Puka Nacua did get hurt. I think he is a good enough quarterback to put on your roster, especially if you're a Jordan Love owner who lost your QB. So that's my first waiver wire pickup. Who is yours?
My first waiver wire pickup is Mayfield. He had an excellent game against the Commanders for 289 yards and 4 touchdowns. He got everybody involved. Chris Godwin, Mike Evans, rookie Jaden Miller, and even the running backs also. So he's definitely will be my number one. If I have Love, which I do, in one of my leagues, he's the one I'm going to be trying to go after.
I definitely like. No, go ahead. What were you going to say?
I was going to say that he rostered him for you. No, that he was rostered at 41.4%.
41%. Wow. Definitely like that pickup. That was going to be my other waiver wire pickup. I'm grateful to have him in one of my leagues. So in case one of my QBs goes down, like you said, he showed a good showing for this first week. He got everyone involved. Mike Evans had 2 touchdowns. Godwin had a touchdown. Spreading the ball. And in his post-game interview, he said he does his best when he has fun, and that he can have fun with that team. Matthew Stafford and him are a good pickup if you're in need of a quarterback. Now, if you're in desperate need, maybe you're in a 2 QB league and there's no QBs that are available, would you pick up Malik Willis, Leo, if you didn't have an option? You gotta be really desperate.
someone else, whether even your boy Sam Darnold, Geno Smith, that he's available in 25.7% leagues, but if you're in a super flex league, everyone's available. You gotta go for everyone. So, because being quarterback has to go down at any moment. So, and then there's a little bar to less than the super. What scares me a little bit, with these losers, also with other receivers, what's gonna happen to them? They Reed had a great game, and so did Olsen. Like those guys, I see them taking a big hit with Love gone. So something keep
Alright, that was going to be some of the quarterbacks that I was going to mention as well, but like you said, um, there may be some better options than Geno Smith. I know Sam Darnold, I'm really debating of picking him up as my fourth QB, just as insurance policy, and man, I am going to be the first to admit that I was hesitant. I did not think that he would do well at all, but he proved me wrong. Really good
Yeah, it's only
accuracy.
one game.
I mean, it's only one game, but I mean, really good accuracy. There was a lot of performances from star QBs that didn't go well. You had Joe Burrow, Caleb Williams only didn't even reach 100 yards. So you have people that, analysts will say that have loads of more talent than Sam Darnold, and Sam Darnold did better than all of them. So he's only rostered in 3% of leagues. Um, so those are some of the quarterbacks that you want to pick up on the waiver wire. If you're in a 1 QB league and you have 2 QBs already, I wouldn't drop any of those QBs, but in 2 QB leagues, like Leonard was saying, people can go down at any moment, so you want to have some insurance policy. Now,
I want to like honestly, I want to say like something like I would think like deep league, especially super flex. One guy I would think about like stashing if you have the space is Jameis Winston. Deshaun Watson looked not too good yesterday, and it wasn't really accurate. And like Winston's a gunslinger, so it's just something like I said. If you have extra space in super deeper leagues, something someone to consider.
alright, yeah, people have already been calling for Jameis Winston to maybe take over. We're not sure if that is going to happen, but like Leonard was saying, you may be able to stash him. Now, moving on to wide receivers. My first waiver wire pickup should be a no-brainer. He's rostered in 78% of leagues, and that's Jameson Williams. I think after the game last night, he is showing to be the deep threat for that high-powered Lions offense. He got the game ball. He showed a lot of quickness. People were a little scared when he went down momentarily, but I didn't see any reports of him dealing with any injuries. So if you don't have a good depth at wide receiver, or you need a starting wide receiver, I honestly believe just because, again, that high-powered Lions offense, he has high upside. He may be, wide receiver 2 numbers if he continues on this pace. So that is my first wide receiver to pick up on waiver wire. Leonard, anything to add about Jameson Williams? Alright. So looks like Leonard was having some difficulties and we seem to have lost him. But we will continue with wide receivers. So the next wide receiver, if you are in need of a wide receiver on your roster, He is only rostered in 91% of leagues, which I'm surprised he's not at the full 100. But he had a really good week this week, even though Love did go down. I do expect the wide receivers in Green Bay to still perform. So it is Jaden Reed of the Green Bay Packers. He had 2 touchdowns in week 1, made the most of his targets. It seems like he is going to be the wide receiver 1, or looking like it, in that Packers offense. BJ, Brunette, and Najee for Devontae. Thoughts? That is a tough one. Devontae did get targeted this week. It seemed like it was Minshew's favorite target. Minshew didn't do exceptionally well. They did run the ball with Madison, but if you're in PPR, I would definitely think about that trade, especially if it's a 1-for-1. So PPR league, I would prefer Devontae Adams. So if you can get Devontae Adams for Najee Harris, I would definitely think about it. If it's a standard, then it's a different story. But that is something that you want to think about. Because
I'm sorry, had some technical difficulties.
yeah, it's okay. One of our viewers from TikTok was asking if you would trade Najee Harris for Devontae. So I was kind of telling him it depends on if it's standard PPR, but it looked like Minshew was looking at Devontae's way often.
Right. Yeah, Najee, he had a good game. Surprisingly, he had most of the carries and most of the touches, like a really big margin compared to everyone else. So, is that going to continue? We don't know. Maybe that's the first game. Jayden Warren, he was still recovering from an injury, even though he played. Maybe the game script, had him carry the more. So, Davante Adams, probably, if you're stacked at running back and you need a receiver, yeah, definitely go for it. Especially if you're in a PPR league for sure.
The second receiver that I was talking about was Jaden Reed. Even though Love went down, he's only rostered in 91%, which I'm surprised he's not at the full 100. So, especially since Love's not going to be out the entire year, if you have space, I would, stash him for when Love comes back.
Alright, cool. I don't know if you guys heard the first receiver I talked about was Rashid Shaheed. He's available in like 47% of leagues. He, was Chris Olave was very distant.
Non-existent,
He didn't really
yes.
make an appearance
I have him
there.
in a league, and he didn't do much.
Yeah. So the one thing that I had him in, he disappointed, and then so is what it is. But Shahid, he had a throughout camp, they've been hyping him up, and he produced. He had 72 yards and a touchdown, so definitely someone to look at there. Another receiver I was looking at a little bit more deeper was I don't really like the guy, but I was at the game and he actually showed up pretty well. Gabe Davis, he was targeted a few times, and then he came up with 3 receptions for 62 yards. Someone to look at there. And just because of the injury to Puka Nakua, that he's going to be out, they actually just broke that he's going to be on IR. Probably the one receiver that's going to go up, play alongside Cooper Kupp is DeMarcus Robinson, and definitely should be a hot waiver wire pickup for sure. I have a couple other guys. I don't know if you have more. But
so I like the Shaheed one. I'm contemplating of picking him up. I just don't know if Saints offense is going to be that high powered. Their opponent was the Carolina Panthers week 1, So I don't know if that's an overreaction, but if Olave is not producing, then somebody has to, and it looks like Shaheed, maybe that guy. Was not aware that Demarcus Robinson would be the go-to if Nakua is out. So if that is the case, they can't just throw it to Cup all the time. So looks like Demarcus Robinson's automatically in that wide receiver 2 on the depth chart. So I do agree, especially with just Stafford. Although I was a little concerned when he went down yesterday as well, because man, there's so many people that went down this week. But I do like all those for waiver wire pickups if you have room. Now moving on to running backs. The first one that I'm gonna say, just because I didn't see much competition for carries, is going to be Alexander Madison. I honestly did not think that he would still be relevant. I know last year with the Vikings he had a few games. Now that he's with the Raiders, did have some nice runs. The head coach Antonio Pierce does like to run the ball. He had 16 carries, touchdown. That's my first running back. If you have the roster space, who's yours?
Yeah, so other than someone that we're going to talk about later when we get to that position, tight end, one of the guys that I'm going to be, I thought he's probably available because I guess I usually focus on the 50%, but a couple of guys to look at is J.K. Dobbins. He's at 58.4% roster. He basically took over that he has all the talent in the world. He just always gets injured, so it sucks. I actually stayed away from him in all my leagues because the injury is always like around the corner with him. But when he plays, he's a beast, man. And yesterday he had 135 yards rushing and a touchdown, and he got the majority of the touches there. So he's definitely one that I would look to get. Another person that's also over 50-something% is Sharper Nate. He's the backup for Kenneth Walker. He's rostered at 55.6%. He had 41 total yards and a touchdown yesterday. Kenneth had a little bit of an abdomen issue that he left the game for a little bit. So, and he tends to have deals with injuries as well in the past. So there's someone to look at there. I have more guys later.
So one thing I failed to mention was that Madison's available, or he's only rostered in 10% of leagues, so you should be able to get him if you have a spot. Now, one thing that interested me in that Ravens game was the fact that Henry wasn't on the field as much as I thought he would be. They were actually using Justice Hill. I don't know if it was just because it was a close game or they wanted him as another option for Lamar to throw to. He's rostered in only 11% of leagues. So I don't know if he would be a viable pickup, but again, it's just something that was interesting because I'm like, man, you paid Derrick Henry, you got him, and you weren't really utilizing him, I thought, as much as that they would. Lamar had over 100 rushing yards, so something to think about, keep an eye on.
Yeah, it was a good pick because Henry is not really a factor in the receiving game, and Hill is. So one of the second year player that he's just on IR right now. Keaton Mitchell. He's once he comes back, he'll probably take more of that role, but just still difficult.
My other running back that you want to look at is Brian Robinson from Washington. He's rostered in 82% of leagues, so still not 100%, so he had a good game this first week. He had around 16 fantasy points. So if he continues to, help out the rookie Jaden Daniels, because Jaden Daniels didn't have that good of a game passing wise. His average pass was like 2 to 3 yards. So if they continue to use Byron Robinson, I think that's a good running back to look at since he's not rostered in 100% of leagues. You got anyone else before we move on to tight ends?
Sure. Yeah, I got actually about three more guys. One is Bucky Irving. He's the rookie I've been hyping for a bit. He's only 24.1% rostered, and he had 76 total yards yesterday, and he actually looked better than Rashad White already. So as I was saying, so we'll see. I will try to get him now before he's not attainable. One guy that I noticed, being at the game, that he wasn't a factor at all last year, but he actually did well, was Tank Bixby with Jacksonville. He had 73 total yards, and being that Etienne fumbled, that's pretty good. He wasn't a factor in the receiving game, but he did rush for 73 yards, and he's only 10.7% rostered. And one guy even further back, obviously another person to pick up even before tonight's game is Jordan Mason. He's 34.8% rostered, and he's with Elijah Mitchell out for the year. He's CMC McCaffrey's handcuff, and he's definitely up there. We haven't seen him play yet this week, but McCaffrey was already dealing with a calf injury, and definitely I would pick him. And a guy even deeper, with only 4.8% roster, is he had a pretty good showing, and actually looked a little bit better than Josh Jacobs a little bit, to be honest with you. Emmanuel Wilson, he had 46 yards, and he also had a 24% snap share already. So as a rookie, so it's just something to keep an eye on. But if you're in deeper leagues, you have to get what you can get. So those are just guys.
I really like CMC's handcuff, especially if whatever he's dealing with, because I know originally it was hamstring, then the official report said Achilles, which is different parts of the leg, so I'm kind of confused. But if, anything is lingering, you would think that, they're not going to use him as much, which is where Jordan Mason can come in. So really like, thinking about his handcuff. So, moving on to tight end, there was some tight end injuries that happened this week. You have Njoku, who has an ankle injury. He goes week to week. You had Jake Ferguson, who also got injured. So, if you don't have one of those elite tight ends, you may be like in a tight end carousel, to where you're just picking up tight end based on the matchup, or you may try and find someone that may be that every week type tight end starter. So like I have Njoku, and if he's not starting, my backup is Conklin, who plays tonight. So if he gets utilized in the passing game, then maybe we'll just plug in Conklin. But before we get to your tight end, Leo, I have a question from Max. Should I start Brian Thomas or Jameson Williams week 2? Brian Thomas did have a touchdown. Jameson Williams also scored, if you're referring to the one from Detroit. Out of those two, for a flex, I like Jared Goff better. I think he is a better quarterback than Trevor Lawrence. So just because of that. And Jameson seems to be like the big play. Receiver, I would go with Jameson Williams. Leo, do you agree, or would you go with Brian Thomas?
They're both, even though Brian Thomas didn't get like I said, I was at the game yesterday, and Brian Thomas looked good. Trevor, there was a play that it was in the end zone, and if it wasn't for a pass interference, Thomas would have got like at least like a 40-50 yard touchdown. So, obviously it doesn't count. We didn't see it, but he was getting open, and Trevor was throwing his way. So I would say probably, like you said, Jameson has the better quarterback, and he has a good matchup with going up against Tampa this week. So I will lean towards them a little bit, but if you see don't get prepared to start using Thomas soon in your lineup, because like I said, he is making headways, and this should be a startable every week. So get it right.
Well, that's a good problem to have, though, if you have both of those guys on your roster already. I only have, I think, Thomas in one league. Never even crossed my mind to get Williams, and he had a really good game last night. Who is your first receiver to pick up?
My first tight end, you mean?
I mean, sorry, tight end, yeah.
So I don't, I love Isaiah Likely. I don't know if is that what you said?
I have not said my tight end yet.
You haven't said, okay. So yeah, I think that's going to be everyone's number one waiver wire pickup in any position. Isaiah Likely, he's only 30% rostered. He had 9 receptions, 111 yards, and a touchdown. And he almost had a second touchdown, but it got taken away
because of the toe.
Was on the but yeah, he's someone definitely.
Now let's take some time and talk about that, because all the experts that I've seen, I'm not saying that it's a bad waiver wire pickup if you have the roster space. I think if you're picking him up thinking that he's going to do that every week, I don't think that's going to happen. It's not like Mark Andrews wasn't on the field. They may use 2 tight end sets, but I don't think that, again, that Mark Andrews is just going to become non-existent. So that is my opinion. Again, I don't think that Likely is going to completely replace Andrews and just have those stats every week. So if you're like, oh, I'm the first person on the waiver wire, and that's the one that you're gonna do, thinking that you can just start him every week, I would just think about that.
Oh, if you're the owner that's Jake Ferguson, like me, he's my number one pick. So it depends, obviously. or there's a couple of tight ends that didn't show up at all, but it's someone to look at. Like I said, it's 30%. More than likely available.
More than likely, yes. Now the tight end that I would think about picking up, just because now that Naku went down, so there has to be some target share somewhere. It would be Colby Parkinson from the Rams, rostered only 10% of leagues. So if Naku is going to be out an extended amount of time, like I said, targets have to go somewhere. So before we say another tight end, Vinny is asking, should I start Xavier Worthy or Chris Godwin week 2? Personally, Worthy looked really good. While the experts were saying that when you looked at Worthy on the field running, it looked like he was twice as fast as everyone else trying to chase him. That little screen, I don't even know if he got touched. And if he continues to be that big play threat or being used like kind of like Deebo Samuel, because I didn't think they would use him in jet sweeps, to be honest. He had 2 touchdowns week 1, so Mahomes was looking his way, which I did not think he would be getting looked at a lot, especially with Rice, Kelsey. So just the amount of, targets that he had really surprised me. I think he has more upside. I don't know if Baker Mayfield is going to have that every week, but I do know that the Chiefs got better, which is scarier to me, because I don't know how you allow the defending Super Bowl champs to get better with a player like Worthy. What about you, Leo? Would you start Worthy or Godwin?
Yeah, we have to ask Buffalo that question.
Right.
for tweeting those freaking things. It's hard. Like what Worthy did last week as in his first game, and it's hard. Like it's kind of like they let the genie out of the bottle. How can you put the genie back in the bottle? Right? he's free. So like yeah, I don't know. Vinny didn't say if it was PPR or not. So if it's PPR, maybe Godwin might get the
receptions, more targets, more looks.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
yeah. So that's something to keep that in mind. If it's a half PPR, then you can kind of go Worthy. So to me, you can't go wrong with either one. But I would probably lean Worthy. Very. I would try to put both of them.
Yeah. I was just wow, man. I don't know how.
Good balance to have, man. Good balance to have.
I don't know how NFL teams just, didn't even look at Worthy. I also Hill's only rostered in 50%, but he didn't have a good week 1. This is just based off of my league. And Conklin's only rostered in 25%, so if he does well tonight, then that may be someone to look at. Do you have any other tight ends?
Yeah, Parkinson's was definitely my second one to go after for sure. Yeah, like you said, he's only like 9.2% rostered, and even with Puka there, he already had like 4 receptions and 47 yards. So, and that was with him there. So he's another like I said, Robinson and him should probably get some of those some targets for sure. Another guy maybe to look at. We're getting deeper here, so it's kind of tight between I don't know, Foster Monroe. He's one of the 3 tight ends in with the Saints. Even Juwan Johnson. The thing is, like both of them scored touchdowns. Not Tyson Hill. That we all thought that he was going to get more love. No, he was barely used. And then these 2 guys, Monroe had 4 receptions on 4 targets for 43 yards and a touchdown. The one thing to keep in mind with Monroe, he does have he goes back with having good chemistry with Derek Carr from his time with the Raiders. So they're both from there, and so that's something to keep in mind, like in deeper leagues, especially like tight end premium leagues that are that's something to look at there. Juwan Johnson, he's good too. The thing is, he only had 3 targets, but he had 2 receptions for 26 yards and a touchdown. So those are a couple options there, like in deeper leagues to look at.
All right. Now, defenses wise, don't know if you're in need of a defense. But I think the Chargers look good. looks like the hardball effect is real. Didn't expect, like Leonard was talking about earlier, Dobbins to have such a good game. Herbert didn't do, too well, but he did have a touchdown. But maybe now with Harbaugh, it's going to be a much more in defense. What about you, Leo? Any defenses that you thought looked good after week 1?
So definitely the Chargers is one for sure. They have a good matchup with the Panthers week 2. That they got demolished by the Saints.
By the Saints.
So that's definitely a good pick there. Other than that, I think that the Chargers, you guys should have that available because they're very. Another team that did well defensively was the Bears. They had a phenomenal and they basically even though Caleb Williams didn't do nothing, only had 7.
The defense saved Caleb Williams' debut. So this week they don't have the greatest matchup in facing my hometown team of the Houston Texans. So I'm not sure if you want to start them. So those are essentially the waiver wire pickups. Now before we wrap, so just between those two, I would choose Kirk over Lockett. Leo, do you agree?
I'm actually gonna lean Lockett here. The preseason, I thought he was done, but he actually came back and did well. He had 7 targets, 6 receptions, 77 yards. So, this is the Grubb's first, the offensive coordinator with him, and they had him going. So, I would definitely look to there. I love Kirk too, but the thing is that Lawrence now has Thomas, he has Gabe Davis, he has obviously Kirk, Evan Ingram, Etienne. So he's got a lot of options there to go, to throw to, and Lockett's always been wide receiver 2 there still. The Jacobs can't get past him, and I think Metcalf got a little injury. So that's why.
Okay, I know Lockett has been consistent, so those are our thoughts. Dylan, now Robin is asking thoughts on Drake London and Deontay Johnson. My thoughts on Drake London were just as I expected, to be honest, which I'm glad I didn't draft him for a 3rd year in a row. Everybody thought that the Falcons were going to be revitalized with Kirk Cousins, and that didn't happen. Pitt's owners were happy because he at least had a touchdown, but to me it's a letdown because I think Drake London was ranked like top 10, top 15 before the season started, so I don't think he lived up to that average draft position. Deontay, I'm not gonna talk bad on him because just the Carolinas team, even with Bryce Young, who showed some shades of getting better during the preseason, he threw an interception on his first pass. So that pretty much sums up my thoughts on Bryce Young. Between those two, Drake London has the better quarterback, so by default, if you had to choose between those two, so I don't know if you're just asking for thoughts or because you don't know who you would start between those two. So if you're asking who do you start between those two, I would say Drake London. Leo?
Right. Yeah, so, it's kind of clear what our thoughts are, but I think I have an idea what he's trying to say. Like should we keep them? What should we do with them? So I would just say both scenarios, they played against really tough defenses. You know, last week to me, I set up bench Deontay Johnson because he was gonna have a tough matchup with Marshall Lattimore. That's what happened. Number one receiver, you know, he locks them down, and that's what he did. London, like I said, they play the Steelers. The Steelers are, you know, they have a good defense. So just be patient with both of them. You know, keep going. Out of the two, I think London, like Paulo says, he has a better quarterback. You know, I would lean. You know, if you had to start between both of them, maybe him. But just have faith. You know, just don't bench. You know, don't put them on the waiver wire. Don't drop them yet. You know, just keep them another week or two just to see, you know, if they can get going. You know, like I said, it's just two tough defenses that they faced in week one.
Alright, just want to say thank you everyone for all the likes, all the comments. We are going to get to them before we end. The next one is from Z Salfino. What should I do with ETN? So Leonard was saying that he did have a fumble and that they were using Bigsby more. If you're asking like what should you do if you want to trade him, I wouldn't panic. I think ETN's a good running back. And Robin was saying what should he do because he has both and he's trying not to panic. So with ETN again, I wouldn't panic just yet. I think some people will overreact after week one, but remember it's a long season, not only for NFL teams but for fantasy. So unless you're gonna get someone to make a deal with you for like a top tier wide receiver, I wouldn't worry about him. Louis saying that someone offered me Reach, Shakir, and Worthy for MHJ. Do you know who MHJ is?
Well, I'm going on the other side. NHA?
MHJ.
I'm trying to see it.
So M is in Mary, H is in Harry, and then J. Louis. Oh, okay.
I couldn't see it.
Even though Marvison didn't have the debut that people thought he would, I don't know if you saw clips, but I've never seen a wide receiver more wide open than Marvison Harrison Jr. to the point where there was no Bills defender in the camera. So if you haven't seen that clip, so I don't know if that was just a breakdown on the Bills side, but if he can get that wide open, eventually Kyler's going to throw it to him. Kyler looked good. He was spreading the ball around, which I didn't think he would do. I thought Marvin Harrison Jr. would get all of the love. So I think I would rather keep Marvin Harrison, even though it's for Shakir and Worthy. Marvin Harrison was getting drafted like the wide receiver one of the Cardinals, and I do think he is going to essentially be in that role. It's week one, so a lot of teams are probably still trying to work out the kinks. Leonard, would you trade Marvin Harrison for Shakir and Worthy?
Man, Reed, Shakir, and Worthy for Marvin Harrison Jr. I'll think about it for sure. Yeah, Reed, was a baller, and Worthy, Worthy. So, I don't know if this is dynasty or whatever, but if it's redraft, yeah, for those three guys, sure.
All right.
for Reed and Worthy alone, probably. The other thing when you do these trades, you just gotta be mindful that when you're getting these three guys, but then you also have to drop players. So if you're stacked and you don't you have to start dropping players, just keep that in mind because you don't want to. Damn, I'm picking these guys up, but then now I gotta drop this other stud, and damn. So you just keep that in mind. If you have a couple scrubs there or whatever, then yeah. Like I said, Shakir is cool. Like I said, Reed is good and Worthy. The thing also with Reed also is that remember Love's gone now for a while, so he might not be as good as he was before. So it's all that you have to keep that in mind. That's why he's trying to trade you all this stuff to get Marvin.
Yeah,
so just think of all that.
That's a lot of roster space.
That's a lot of roster space, for Harrison.
Rob is saying he's trying to trade ETN for what should be, for what should I get for him? I need a running back and maybe a wide receiver. I mean, ETN was drafted as one of the,
he was drafted in the second round.
Yeah, one of the more top running backs for fantasy. So unless you're gonna get someone of his caliber, there's very few workhorse running backs. So unless you're gonna get someone of his same caliber, again, kind of just be careful.
If you need a running back that's either be like his same level, like Paulo's saying, and also receiver. He had a 70, even though he had the fumble, he had 70% snap share. So he's still gonna be involved. He's the PPR running back. So, like I said, I was at the game and he was being used even after the fumbling. They kept going his way. So you have to get someone solid for that's not low.
Greg is asking Mixon over Marvin Harrison next week. So even though I am a Texans fan, I'm not going to be biased. So Mixon did have a good game, but I'm hoping that the Texans don't use him to that extent every week. It's just not attainable in the sense that if you're going to be using him 30 times every week, he's not going to have any gas left in that tank for the end of the season. So while I think that the Texans offense is good, having to run the ball that much, that's not what the Texans did all last year. And you built that team to allow Stroud to throw the ball. So that's my thoughts on that. They do play the Bears, but the Bears defense did have a good showing in week 1. So if it's PPR, I would do Marvin. If it's standard, then I would do Mixon. Your thoughts, Leo?
Yeah, between Mixon and Harrison, I like Mixon. Mixon was used running the ball, receiving the ball, and I think he did really well. So I would lean towards Mixon.
All right. So we do have to start wrapping things up. So just gonna kind of quick fire these last ones. Dobbins is available. Should you drop Samir, Terry, Riddler, Kyler, Ferguson to get him? If J.K. Dobbins is available, I would drop Ferguson just because Ferguson is hurt and you have McBride as your tight end 1. Would not panic on London. It's still too early. Is Jerome Ford a true RB2? If Watson keeps playing like the way he's playing, then I think that's going to be the majority of their offense. Aaron saying that you traded Rice, Pacheco, and B2J for Cup and Bijan, especially with Nakua being out. Cup is going to be easily the favorite target, and you're getting Bijan for Rice and Pacheco, so I think that's a really good trade. Henry, Marvin Harrison Jr., and Ford for Amon-Ra and Swift. So I'm not sure if that's a trade, Dan. If it is, I like the Amon-Ra side more than Derrick Henry, Marvin Harrison, and Ford. Holler McCaffrey PPR. I would say McCaffrey. So if you have to start both, or if you have to start one, which I don't know. Sorry about the quick fire, but again, had to wrap things up. We are going to be live again on Friday, so we'll probably have a lot more time on Friday, for getting a lot of these questions, but it is Monday. So that being said, again, thank you for all the likes, questions, follows. If you haven't dropped a follow, please do.
Subscribe. This is going to come out as a podcast too. So you want to go back and listen to the whole thing, and you can follow us. If you have any questions, you can reach out to me on X at 1074, and on TikTok it's at FFBOG.
All right. Thanks, everyone.